Knowledge for Men, episode 26.
Welcome to knowledgeformen.com, where boys turn into men, where men turn into leaders, into lions, the ferocious few who stand strong, a place where you grow to become the man you were born to be. It's time to take massive action towards the life you want. Get the health, get the relationships, business, and career you've always dreamed of. Achieve a level of success and happiness that you've been searching for so many years. Life has given you enough, and it's time to take a stand and take full control of your life. Stand with us as we interview the most inspiring and successful leaders to give you real-world advice to crush life and awaken the sleeping giant inside of you. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download today at kfmbook.com. There's over 100,000 titles to choose from for your smartphone, tablet, or computer. It's a perfect way to listen to your favorite books in the car, in the gym, or at home. Check out kfmbook.com to start learning in your downtime.
All right, guys, I'm here with Michael Matthews, who's on a mission to empower people to take control of their health and fitness by following a healthy, enjoyable lifestyle that not only gives them the body they've always wanted, but enables them to live a long, vital, disease-free life. He's the creator of muscleforlife.com and the author of over a dozen books in the health and fitness space, along with the best-selling book, Bigger, Leaner, Stronger: The Simple Science of Building the Ultimate Male Body, which will be the focus of today's episode. And guys, this is actually how I found out about Michael, was through his book on Amazon, which, by the way, has over 880 reviews, nearly all 5 stars. This guy's the real deal, and because of that, heads up, guys, this is going to be a longer episode because he's full of epic content that you need to know. Michael, I'm happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Andrew. I appreciate it.
All right, let's dive right into your favorite success quote and why.
So here's one that I just really like a lot. It's from Henry Miller, a famous author, and he said, "In this age, which believes that there is a shortcut to everything, the greatest lesson to be learned is that the most difficult way is, in the long run, the easiest." And the reason why I like that quote is because I'm a big believer in that it takes a lot more effort than a lot of people think to achieve anything extraordinary. And by extraordinary, I don't even necessarily mean world class. I mean, that's on another level. I just mean, like, if we're talking about career, making a good living, if we're talking about even anything, a relationship, having a great marriage, or, whatever it is, it just takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time, and it takes sacrifice. The time that you have to put into that's time you got to take away from other stuff. You know what I mean? So that quote really resonates with me.
That's right. There is no easy path to success.
Yeah.
And I like what you said there. The hardest path is the easiest path.
Yeah, exactly. And what seems difficult is really, I mean, in my experience, not just in writing, but in building a website, now building a business, a supplement business, is the things that work are very simple and very straightforward, obvious. They're not like these amazing, insightful, like no one's ever thought of this. This would be the most ingenious thing ever. It's just the thing, a lot of the ideas that have worked are like, yeah, that pretty much will guarantee, like, that's what everyone else is doing and it works, and it just takes time. And find that a lot of people tend to fall into a trap of looking for this whole work smarter, not harder kind of thing. I agree that you need to have good ideas and don't, stupid ideas, a lot of effort and put into a stupid idea does not work well. But at the same time, if it's looking to work smart, not hard, no, that's where you run into the whole world of people chasing internet millions and the whole work at home, you don't have to work all kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And working from home isn't this, fairy tale, this amazing thing that people think it is. It's still really hard work, except you're just doing it at your house.
I know.
And now, Mike, let's jump into your story. How did you get started with what you do?
Sure. So I published my first book, which was Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. I published it in January of 2012. Published it myself. I have another business, which I still have, but it kind of just runs on autopilot at this point. But that was my full-time job at that time. And I published Bigger, Leaner, Stronger more because I was just kind of interested. This is when the KDP platform, the Kindle Direct Publishing platform, was really kind of blowing up. People were hearing about it. So, and I always had an interest in writing. So I was like, I'm going to write a fitness book because I get asked all the time by friends and family and whatever, how to get in shape, how do I eat, how do I train, blah, blah, blah. I'll write a book on it and just see how it goes. So I did that in January 2012. Didn't really pay much attention to it. It was I wrote it, at night or after work and whatever, and just went through. I mean, I have a bit of a background in marketing, especially marketing information type products. So I did my thing on coming up with a title that I thought sounded catchy, which was Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, and doing a professional cover, blah blah blah. And the first month, maybe it sold 20 copies. I don't know. I was just like, oh, somebody bought it. That's cool. And
who is that person?
Yeah, exactly. That's nice. And then the next month it was maybe 50 copies. I'm like, oh, it's going up. I'll take it. And then the next month it was maybe 150 copies. So it started to pick up. The first several months I really didn't pay much attention to it at all. It was just a curiosity. And but there was a point when maybe it hit a couple hundred sales in a month, and I don't even remember because the price was low. Maybe it made me $500 or something. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess there's some potential here. So then I started working on the next book right away, which was Muscle Myths, and started working on some revisions to Bigger, Leaner, Stronger based on reader feedback and stuff. And so that was sometime in the middle of 2012 when I started to put a little bit more time in the writing. Once again, it was a part-time thing, though. I was just working on at home at night. I would just get on my laptop and I would write. And that was it. And I didn't even have a website at the time. It was just I had an email address. Might have had a very simple website I did nothing with. But so yeah, 2012. By the end of 2012 is when I think I had 5 books published at that point, and was starting to sell a couple thousand units a month, and it started to become something. And so that's when I decided that I was going to really actually put a lot more time and a lot more effort into this, because it was worth it at this point. If I was looking at my income coming from my business and my work at that time, and I could see the potential of this other stuff it becoming much more, and it's something I'm passionate about, something I enjoy, both health and fitness and writing, so it seemed like a pretty good fit. And so basically this year, 2013, is the year where I really focused on basically full-time on my fitness stuff. And since for this year, I've sold probably about 100,000 books or so this year. And I started a website in March of 2013 called Muscle for Life. It's muscleforlife.com. And, it's the end of the year now, and we did just about 250,000 visits last month, or in the last 30 days. So things have really, really taken off. So, I mean, that's the long story short.
Okay, so now what led you into the world of like health and fitness? Were you an athlete growing up, or were you an out of shape guy who really just wanted to spend time and work on this area of his life? Can you share that part of the story as well?
Yeah. Actually, I first started working out, going to the gym when I was 17, and because I just wanted to get girls. Like that was the initial impetus, right? Girls like muscles. So I didn't know anything, and I stuck with it for years and years and didn't have much to show for it. I mean, after 6 or 7 years, you could tell that I worked out, but I didn't have anywhere near the type of physique that I have now, because I just didn't really know what I was doing. Just by pure persistence, I had done something with my body. But it was at that point, several years ago now, three or 4 years ago, when I started to learn a bit more about how the nutrition and training side of the game really work, and started getting more educated, especially in the scientific side of it. Instead of just reading magazines and listening to whatever kind of guru I could find, Googling around, start diving into published literature myself and start getting a real good understanding. Because I mean, it's really just when you start understanding it's physiology. It's not magic. It's not. So I started diving into that and then trying things out. And also I came across a couple of good mentors along the way, a couple natural bodybuilders, natural power lifters that were able to point me in the right direction and teach me some very important aspects of both dieting. Probably the most important thing, I mean, it seems so stupid to me now, but at the time I didn't know, is that dieting is just numbers. It just boils down to how much you eat in terms of how many grams of protein, carbohydrate, and fat per day, based on what you want to do with your body, based on your activity level. What you eat is not important. Now, of course, it is important for health. Food provides micronutrients. It's not just protein. It's not just macros. Like that's what's kind of trendy right now. So that was kind of a revelation to me, that if I just stuck to certain numbers every day, I could lose fat or I could build muscle or whatever. And then on the training side of the game, it was importance of heavy compound weightlifting. That when you're a natural weightlifter, that has to be the focus of your program. By compound weightlifting, I mean exercises that train multiple muscle groups. Like a compound exercise would be the squat, whereas an isolation exercise would be like the leg extension or leg curl machine, where you're just isolating the quadricep muscle or the hamstring. So yeah, those are kind of the two big things that I learned. And I mean, of course, a lot of other things, but those were two big lessons. And when I started applying those and other things that I was learning, I really started to see a difference in my body. And I've made more progress with my physique in the last few years than I did in the first 7 years, hands down. I have a blog post on my website. If people go there and search for mistakes, it'll come up, and it just shows the dramatic transformation from year 7 or 8 to like year 11 now. I look like a different person.
I've seen the photos. That's why you're on the show, Mike.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
And on this journey, can you take us back to a time when you had to overcome some huge, massive failure or some challenges that came along this journey?
yeah, sure. I mean, I can go back to the beginning where when I was even writing Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, I didn't know is this just a waste of time? Is anyone going to even care? And I think a lot of people could probably relate to that, especially when you're starting something new and you have different doubts. But for me, I guess I've always been pretty good in just not really worrying about that kind of stuff, because if I'm just risking time, or even if I'm risking some, an amount of money that I'm comfortable with, okay, fine, I'm willing. It's a calculated risk. I'm willing to take that risk. I don't really dwell much on the what if it doesn't work, what if people don't like it or whatever. I just focus on doing the best work that I can, getting it out there, getting feedback, and always looking to negative feedback, because I've gotten negative feedback on all of my stuff, but my instinct is not to get defensive about it. My instinct is to actually see what I can get from that. So in a lot of cases, actually, some of the negative feedback I've received on various books has helped me improve them, which is one of the big benefits of the self-publishing game. Is like I've made multiple revisions to all my books along the way, just based on reader feedback. Somebody emails me. Generally speaking, these days, I guess the books are in really good shape, so I get a lot of good feedback. But sometimes people have great suggestions, like hey, or things that just weren't clear. So, but yeah, in the beginning, there was a little bit of that where I just didn't of course, is this going to matter? Should I just do anything else other than this? And then also there was the time issue. I have a 15-month-old son, and so I'm married, and you got to work out. I can't totally neglect my family life, and I also had a full-time job that I had to keep doing to pay bills. So basically what it boiled down to is just still kind of really, this is the way I've come to live now, where I don't need much free time. I just decided that when I looked at it and I said, okay, I can use my nights to hang out with friends, or I can watch TV, or I can play video games, or I can even hang out, spend a lot of time with my family and stuff. And each of those activities could have varying degrees of worthwhileness, right? Social life is great, and spending time with family is very necessary. But what I basically did is I decided that I was going to shave out anything that I considered unnecessary in terms of what I was going to do with my time, and I'm just going to spend that time working. And so, I became known as that guy that, don't bother asking Mike to do anything during the weeknights. He has Friday night and maybe some time on Saturday. Just don't, my friends, they just came to know, don't even ask, because I'm not going to be going to the movies. I'm not going to be doing any of that. And so that was, I guess I didn't find it that hard to make that transition, because when I'm getting into a project or I'm deciding to do something, I kind of like to sit down first and work out, okay, what's my goal here? What's my purpose? Why am I doing this? And where am I going? And then be realistic with myself. What is it going to take to get there? And it kind of goes back to that quote that I gave in the beginning. How much effort is it really going to take? I don't get into projects. I look at it almost like a financial analogy. I don't against credit card debt. I'm against debt, period. But I guess a mortgage, okay, fine. But I would never just buy something and hope that I can keep up the payments. Whatever, we'll see. I'll go buy that whatever $150,000 car, and we'll see if I can still afford it in 5 months, something like that. I don't operate that way. So it is a similar thing in terms of work, or when I'm getting into a project, how much effort is it going to take? And look at now it's even more important, because I have a lot of balls that I'm juggling, and I have a lot of different opportunities that come my way, and I have to make a decision. If I say yes to that, what am I actually saying yes to in terms of time? You know what I mean? And can I do that? Can I fit that in? So it was even applicable there in the beginning, where I had to look at realistically, if I want to write a book, how much time is that going to take? If I work on it at night and I can pump out maybe 500 words a day, and that's not bad for the output and the time that I had, how long is that going to take? And then I have to get it edited, and then I have to do the marketing side of it. You know what I mean? So that was kind of like how I went about it in the beginning. And then when I kind of straightened that out for myself, I found it wasn't that big of a deal to cut out that time and just say, okay, fine. No, I don't watch TV shows, or at the time, I wasn't. Even now, I maybe watch one here and there. I'm waiting for Game of Thrones to come back. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that was in your blog. You're like, oh, occasionally I watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. I did Breaking Bad too. Breaking Bad.
Oh man.
So yeah, there was that, maybe a bit of just something as as an adjustment that I had to get used to. And then otherwise the book game has been pretty smooth, but the reason why it's been smooth, and I could have run into a lot of problems if I wouldn't have went about it maybe the way that I did, is that a couple key things is that I stayed in really good communication with my readers and followers. Like I still today, I answer every email I get, every social media message I get, even if it's silly stuff, I don't care, I'm answering it. And that has helped tremendously. It's helped with getting a lot of feedback and improving my products, and it's helped win fans and win people that go, oh wow, this guy actually cares. He's different. He's not just giving me a copy or paste response that says, give me money, come sign up for my one-on-one and I'll answer a question of yours. That sounds ridiculous, but that's common in this industry. That's normal. Like it could be an answer where, I'll get very simple questions. It takes me 5 seconds to type that answer. But the effect that it creates on the other side is so I would almost say disproportionately good. 5 seconds of my time, and a person, not only they get an answer to a question from someone that they trust, it shows that I care, and I'm not just going to either ignore their email or tell them to give me money for 5 seconds of my time. So I kind of kept that in from the beginning and was very engaged with my people, and also surveying them and asking them so what would you like to see in future books? And so by doing that and just working a lot, even now my schedule is, I don't know, probably about 70 hours a week. And I just like it. Honestly, that's just the way I like things. But that was a big point of why I haven't run into too many major roadblocks, that just I guess because of pure just be smart about it, but be willing to outwork any sort of setback. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not dwelling on the what ifs, and you're focusing on creating high quality products for your customers and then utilizing that customer feedback to just create even better products. So your hard work is really paying off, and you can see that in the growth of your business and all the books that you've done. Some really great results, especially on your blog as well. And now, Mike, let's now jump into your specialty. What kind of diet and routine would you suggest for guys who want to put on some lean muscle?
Okay, yeah. So the first thing that you should know when it comes to building muscle is, so long as you're training correctly, which you can talk about in a second, a big part of it is the amount of calories that you're eating. And calories are just a measurement of energy, right? Potential energy in food. So the amount of energy you're giving your body in food versus the energy that you're expending. Your body expends energy just to stay alive. Like your brain requires quite a bit of energy, all the organs, right? And then activity burns energy. So this is one of the big points that I had to learn in terms of proper dieting is you can look at it in terms of calories, and then you can look at it, where do those calories come from, right? So you eat protein, you eat carbs, you eat fats, they all have calories, and the ratio of those also does matter. So the first thing is, if you are, I could give a simple formula, for instance, like if you're a guy and you're lifting weights, you should start with about 1 gram of protein per pound, about 2 grams of carbohydrate per pound, and about 1 gram of fat for every 3 pounds or so is a good place to start. And, out in the bodybuilding world, there are a lot of bulking diets, and a lot of these diets, they just grossly overshoot the amount of calories that you need. So they'll say, eat 5,000 calories a day, figure it out, right? You're like, okay, you're going to get fat fast if you do that, unless you have a crazy metabolism. Some guys do. I haven't come across guys eating 5,000 a day, but I do come across sometimes guys that are in the 170-ish pound range, and they have to eat 4,000, 4,500 calories a day just to gain 1 pound a week and without much body fat. So that is possible. So what I teach in my books is that you start moderate, right? So you want to start with that formula I gave. For most people, for the average metabolism, that would be a slight surplus. It'd be a few hundred calories more, well, not even a few, maybe about 100 to 200 calories more than their body actually needs every day. And you start there. And you get, as long as you're training correctly, you use your body for feedback. If your weight is staying the same after 7 to 10 days of training, you're not eating enough. Also, of course, a common mistake guys make is they'll eat fairly well. Let's say they were sticking to that on their training days, and then on their off days, let's say they're off on the weekend, their diet, they'll eat a lot less actually, because they just don't think of it. They might sleep in and they might eat one big meal, then not even really think to eat again for another 8 hours. Or what they do eat, like their protein is going to be nothing on that off day, because they're going to wake up, have a bunch of pizza, and then later have a whatever at a restaurant. And so paying attention to how you're eating on the weekend matters as well. And the nice thing about that style of dieting, which is just called flexible dieting, is as long as you meet those numbers, what you eat is not so important. Like I said, it does matter for health reasons. Don't just try to eat junk food all day. But all the rules out there, you can't eat carbohydrates. You have to eat only certain types of carbohydrates. You can only eat at certain times. You can't eat at other times. All that is not true. What it boils down to is numbers, and that applies for losing weight as well. So yeah, that's in terms of eating, that's how I would start. And if after 7 to 10 days or so, your weight is the same, you bump your calories up. You bump them up by anywhere from 100 to 200 calories a day. A lot of guys like to increase their carbohydrate and or fats to get there. And then you hit it again for another week or so, see how your body responds. And you just work like that until you find your body's sweet spot. And the sweet spot is, especially when you're new to weightlifting, is you want to be gaining somewhere between 1 and 2 pounds per week, closer to 1. And your strength should be going, when you're training correctly, your strength should be going up dramatically in the beginning. I mean, guys, I have a lot of people that they'll come to me, not even necessarily new, they're just new to this style of weightlifting that I recommend. And they'll have been stuck, let's say, on their bench press for 6 months. They haven't added any weight. And then within 3 months, they're up 40 pounds or something on my program. And it's doable. You just have to know what you're doing.
That's a great rundown on building muscle with diet. And now here's a big one. What are your thoughts on supplements? Do you need them? What do you recommend? What do you not recommend?
Supplements are not necessary, and zero. None of them are necessary for building a great physique. The reality is certain supplements can help. Like, let's talk about like protein powders. The reason why I use one is because there is some research that indicates that whey protein in particular is good for pre and post workout, just because it quickly spikes the amino acids in your blood. That's what protein breaks down into amino acids, right? And your body uses those amino acids to rebuild itself. So there is some research supporting that. And then also protein shakes are convenient. I'm here in the office and I'm busy, and I don't really feel like, for my 4:30 p.m. snack, I usually have a snack around then, I don't really feel like heating up food. So okay, fine, I'll do a protein shake, I'll eat a banana, maybe have some almond butter, and then it's fast, easy. So protein shakes are convenient, but they're not necessary. There are plenty of people that I work with that they just don't want to do powders, which I understand, because also the reality is, in a lot of cases, you don't know actually what you're buying. And it's a lot worse than people realize. Like, there are big name companies out there whose protein powder, they'll say it has 25 grams protein per scoop. It gets tested by an independent lab and it has 15 or it has 12. And the rest is carbohydrates in the form of either maltodextrin. It's also, I don't know if I could say it's common, but it's out there. Definitely, there are products out there on the shelves right now that are cut with flour. And it's just, this industry, the supplement industry is so shady. It's so ridiculous, over the top shady. I don't. When I started, because I have actually like an inside kind of understanding of it now, speaking with different manufacturers and stuff, even I was a little bit surprised. So there are people, even people I know, guys that compete, that they won't use protein powders for that reason. They just don't know what they're getting, and they'd rather just eat food. They know that chicken breast has whatever it has, and there you go. So that's protein powder. Other stuff like supplements that are not worth it. Any sort of test boosters, HGH boosters, not worth it. Most of them, there are no natural substances that are going to make any difference in your HGH production. There are a couple that could help testosterone, but only if you're deficient. But the bottom line with that is, a lot of guys are buying those test booster supplements to try to build more muscle. That will not do anything ever, period, guaranteed. And not only because a lot of the products don't do anything anyway, But even if they did, even if you had a product like there's an amino acid called D-aspartic acid that has some research behind it, it can increase testosterone production mildly, right? I mean, you're only going to get a mild boost from a natural substance, but that mild, let's say it's a 10% increase, right? Let's say that your testosterone goes from 600 NGDL nanograms per deciliter, how it's measured, let's say goes up to even, let's just say to 700. You might feel that a little bit. You might feel a little bit more peppy. You might have a little bit more of a sex drive. Maybe you'll notice it a little bit. But that level of an increase in testosterone will not help you build more muscle, period. It won't. Like, this has been scientifically proven. There have been studies. I talk about it actually in a couple articles on my website. So don't waste your money on test boosters. Don't waste your money on HGH boosters. Don't waste your money on nitric oxide boosters. It's just not worth it. A good pre-workout is not necessary, but I like it because it actually makes your workouts better. Like, if you can go work out and push a little bit more weight, get a few more reps because of a good pre-workout, that over time can equal building a little more muscle or a little more strength, because you're able, if you exert yourself. If you don't exert, just taking the pre-workout doesn't do anything. And whatever, having that, like, a good pre-workout will not only give you a performance boost, but you get that energy rush, and, it helps you kind of really push through your workout. So one of the issues with pre-workouts, though, is that a lot of them, they just rely on harsh stimulants. You have that energy rush, and you have the crash, right? Or a lot of carbohydrates where it just gives you that rush and then crash. And the ingredients in the case of, like, there are certain amino acids that can improve performance, like beta-alanine, citrulline malate, ornithine, things that are in my pre-workout, in my line. But in other pre-workouts, if you compare formulations, like my formulation, I have 8 grams of citrulline malate per serving, which is the clinically effective dosage. Like, that's taken from actual studies. How much citrulline malate did these researchers give these athletes to notice a benefit, right? But you'll see that cit malate in another pre-workout at 1.5 grams per serving. Well, is that going to do anything? Probably not. 8 grams is what they used in the study, and you're taking 1.5. So that's also something why a lot of other pre-workouts, like, honestly, you could probably just make your own pre-workout. Get some caffeine pills and get some bulk aminos, get some citrulline malate, beta-alanine, do 8 grams cit malate, 5 grams beta-alanine, and take some caffeine pills, and you'd be better off. That's money better spent than getting, like, the latest fancy pre-workout,
All right. So just overall summary, supplements are not necessary, and they just help out a little bit in certain situations.
Certain ones, yeah, like creatine, good supplement, has 30 years of research behind it. It helps build muscle, helps you get stronger. There are certain supplements that are worthwhile, but think of it as, like, if you're willing to spend the money to maybe get a little bit of an edge in your training, it's worth it. If you don't have the money, like, don't think that you have to cut out. So I would say take money, if you're tight on money, put that money into eating high quality food and forget the supplements. Don't skimp on food to go for supplements.
Yeah, I think the key is to know that it's a supplement to your diet, not a replacement of your diet. And something I see a lot of other guys doing, it's really popular in magazines, kind of like confusing your muscles or doing different workouts to confuse your muscles, and that's what's going to build strength and muscle. What do you think about that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, that's in the terminology of, like, the lifting world, it's bro science, meaning bro science is fake science that gets tossed around, advice that gets tossed around from the bros, right? And they swear by it. And no, the whole muscle confusion theory has no scientific basis. That's, that type of advice is what you'll find in a lot of magazines. And what you'll find in a lot of magazines is a lot of crap. And the magazines are there primarily to sell supplements. They're either financially beholden to them or in some cases owned by them. So, those magazines, they can't just print the same simple principles every month. They have to keep on coming up with new stuff. So that's where the muscle confusion thing kind of comes from mainly. No, what you need the primary drivers of muscle growth are muscle damage. You need to damage your muscles. You're actually damaging them when you're training, like on a microscopic level. The fibers are being damaged. And metabolic, you could say conditioning, but it's metabolic stress, right? So on a cellular level, like when you start doing higher rep stuff, that's what you're doing is you are increasing your muscles' fibers' ability to contract over and over and over. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get bigger, but that is a muscle endurance part. And then progressive overload, which is lifting more weight over time. And that's the most important, lifting more weight over time. And that's the biggest mistake that people make is, you see a lot of guys in the gym, that they are doing, let's say, like 10 to 12, maybe 15 plus reps per exercise. And they're doing isolation exercises, doing like isolation curls, or they're using a machine, and they've been using that same weight for the last 3 months, and maybe they go up in a rep or two here and there. That is the easiest way to get nowhere. The most effective type of training, it doesn't change the exercises a lot. Instead, what you're changing is the amount of weight that you're lifting. That's the big key. The bottom line is the vast majority of exercises that you can do for various muscle groups are just not, they're just suboptimal. There are, relatively speaking, a pretty small handful of exercises that train each individual muscle group best. And you want to be focusing on those exercises. And yes, you can change it up. Like in my programs, you change up your routines every 6 to 8 weeks. But for some people, they go 6 to 8 weeks. Are you kidding me? You do the same exercise. Like I have people in the gym that come up to me and they're surprised. Like, I see you squatting every week for legs. It seems like you do the same stuff every week for legs and you get stronger and you stay lean. Like, how is that possible, right? But the key is I'm focusing on increasing weight over time. So every month or so, I'm a little bit stronger than I was last month. And that's the big primary, one of the major things that once you understand that and you apply it and you see it working, you just never turn back. So the exercises that you focus on are stuff like you were saying earlier: squat, bench press, military press or overhead press, deadlift. And there are, other exercises that maybe start to blur that gray area or kind of isolation, like if you're training arms, for instance, barbell curls. You can't call it an isolation exercise, but it's not a deadlift, you know what I mean? Close grip bench press, stuff like that. So these are all the kind of exercises I focus on in my programs.
All right, now let's go into scheduling and like routines. How much time should guys be spending in the gym, and how frequently should they go to the gym each week?
Workouts, really, when we talk about time, what that boils down to is volume. How many reps are you doing? And when you're training intensely, for instance, my Bigger, Leaner, Stronger program has you focusing in the 4 to 6 rep range. That's about 80% of your 1 rep max, pretty heavy weight. And I talk about why in the book, but scientifically speaking, if you're going to work in 1 rep range, that is 4 to 6, 5 to 7 is about the best that you can get, because it gives you, well, I won't go into the science of it, but I talk about it in the book. So when you're training intensely, this also is, there's some good research on this, that you're looking to do about 40 to 60 reps per workout. And that's not very high, because you'll see if you're doing 10 to 12 rep, like a common type of exercise routine that you'd see in the gym is a guy doing 10 to 12 reps per exercise, 6 exercises, 4 sets per exercise, 24 sets, then you're talking about almost close to 300 reps. That's just grossly overtraining. Unless that person's on steroids, he's just overtraining. He's just causing more damage to his muscles than his body can repair, or in some cases, he's just causing a ton of metabolic stress that doesn't even result in much muscle growth. So when you boil it down to doing about 40 to 60 reps with proper rest times, it's about 45 minutes. I'm never in the gym. I'm doing a kind of advanced version of the Bigger, Leaner, Stronger program, which I'm going to be talking about in the book that I'm releasing, which is a follow-up book to it. So I'm in the gym. My workouts are 10 sets, 10 to 11 sets, and I'm in the gym for no longer than an hour, and I do it 5 days a week. In terms of frequency, like the ideal rep range debate, a lot of opinions on it, but if we look at least the science that's available, you can train, if you're training a muscle group properly, a major muscle group, you can train it about once every 5 days, seems to be about optimal. In my Bigger, Leaner, Stronger program, you're training once every 7 days, and there's a reason for that. Also, I mean, sometimes for some people's schedule, it's actually a bit hard to make a 5-day split work, and then also I have to split muscle groups. The workouts can be a bit harder because in a lot of cases, you're performing heavy compound lifts on the same day. So you're doing like squats and deadlifts on the same day, or you're doing deadlifts and overhead press on the same day, which especially for new people is quite tough. But yeah, you should be able to get everything you need to do done in about 45 minutes to 60 minutes a day. And you can make gains on, I have an article on my website about maintaining strength that has a 2-day routine, has a 3-day routine. You can absolutely maintain a physique on 2 to 3 days a week. You can actually make gains on 2 to 3 days a week, but you will make more gains training more frequently, up to 5, even 6 days a week. Not that that's necessary, but you will do better. Like, you are going to build the body you want faster on 5 days a week than you will on 3 days a week. It's just a fact.
Okay. And what are things that people are doing in the gym that they think is actually working, yet yields no results at all. And I guess you can call that bro science, or I guess you can call these myths, like workout or gym myths.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's go over in one of the chapters in the book. See if I can remember off the top of my head. But there is that, like, getting a pump. A lot of guys, they'll gauge the effectiveness of their workout based on like how much of a pump they have. And that the pump is, yeah, okay, it feels cool or whatever, and it makes you look bigger. But it's a very poor indicator, actually, of not only what, muscle growth in terms of what's going to result, but also just in terms of the effectiveness of the workout. Because you can go in and do a million drop sets and get a huge pump and build no strength and build no muscle. So that's a big myth. Also, this muscle confusion point is a big myth. A lot of people, you do not need to change your routine up a lot. Quite to the contrary, you need to focus on certain exercises and you need to get strong in those exercises. Yes, muscles can grow stronger without growing larger. They can adapt neurologically, but that only works to a point. There is a point where to get stronger, it requires more muscle fiber, period. So that's also a big point. Also, this point of having to work out for long periods of time. A lot of guys think that, and they'll look at interviews with pro bodybuilders or even pro fitness models, physique kind of guys, and they'll look at their workouts and it'll be like, this workout is 30 sets of 10 to 15 reps. You're in there for 2 hours and this guy's shredded and he looks amazing. I guess, and they'll think of that as like, okay, that's advanced, but I'm going to push myself. I'm going to try to, I'm tough. I can do that. And what a lot of people don't know is every one of those guys is on drugs. Every single one. And yeah, that sounds ridiculous or whatever, but the type of guys that I'm talking about the big name, they're massive, they're super lean. There's a certain type of look that you can't achieve naturally. You just can't. There's a certain there's certain things like these massive shoulders, massive upper chest, massive traps, drugs always. You can't do it naturally. Honestly, these really deep cuts, that kind of 3D look where guys will, they'll weigh 170, but they look 210 kind of thing. That's drugs. So just know that when you're looking at these top tier bodybuilders and competitors and fitness models and stuff, and realize that steroids don't build a physique. Those guys work hard. Yeah, they're in the gym hours every day. It takes incredible discipline to do what they're doing. I don't even take it away from them that they're on drugs. I don't care. Do what you want. It's your body. But the disservice is that they don't tell people. So people go see what they're doing and think that that's what I need to do. So natural weightlifting is very different. So that's why those super long workouts, they do work if you're on enough drugs, but they don't work if you're not. So that's a big mistake. So yeah, those are 3 big mistakes. And there are a couple others I talk about in the book, but.
All right, we'll check those out. And you have something called the 4 laws of muscle growth. Can you share with the audience what that is?
You have to, progressive overload is the big key, and which means that you have to be lifting heavier weights over time. You have to get stronger. Focusing on the right exercises is key. Eating enough food is key. Muscles, like the whole cliche that like muscles are, grown in the kitchen, that whole thing. I wouldn't say that diet is everything, because you can eat perfectly. You could know exactly what you're doing with diet, but if you don't know what you're doing in the gym, you're actually not going to make good gains. So I would say that honestly, diet and training are equally important. Maybe you could say diet is a little bit more important if somebody's new, because if you're new, you can go in the gym and do just about anything and you will build some muscle, you will build some strength, at least for your first few months. But once those newbie gains are done, then that's when you don't know what you're doing in terms of training. It doesn't matter how good your diet is, you're going to plateau. And then also resting, getting enough rest is very important. And that's not just getting enough sleep, but also enough time not exercising. Once again, not working out for super long periods of time, not doing a ton of cardio on top of your weightlifting, and not training too frequently. I mean, I'll talk with guys that, they're natural guys that are trying to work out twice a day, 6-7 days a week. There's just no way that you can put your body under that much stress and have it respond the way that you want it to. So yeah, those are the big, primary factors.
All right. And what are the exercises that you recommend which deliver maximum results in the gym?
Compound exercises and, just sort of like, for instance, how do you build a big chest, a strong chest? And like chest training, for instance, boils down to you have to get strong on your big presses, period. You have to get strong on, especially on your incline presses. The incline is one of the most underutilized exercises, unless somebody knows what they're doing. But a lot of cases, you'll see guys doing flat and you'll see guys doing decline because you can put up more weight on decline. But what that does is when you just train flat and decline is you get that bottom heavy, kind of droopy, weird boob type of pec. And that upper part of the pec, will not develop unless you hit heavy incline presses. So like incline bench press, barbell, flat barbell bench press, incline dumbbell press, flat dumbbell press. Those 4 exercises, if you get strong on those, you will build a chest. Dips are also great. But an exercise like, for instance, chest training, how you will not get strong and you will not build a chest is do a bunch of push-ups, do a bunch of flies, do a bunch of cable work, do a bunch of machines, do high reps. You will get nowhere. You can train your chest like that for years and you'll have, sure, you're going to build something, but you'll never have the type of chest that, when you look at some of these pictures and stuff online, and realize also, I'm not saying that everyone that looks good is on drugs. Don't take what I was saying earlier, but I'm just talking about top tier guys. So you can find plenty of people that are not on drugs online that have great physiques. And so, yeah, heavy pressing, that's chest. Back, you got to get strong in your deadlifts, you got to get strong in your barbell rows, your dumbbell rows, your pull-ups, your weighted pull-ups, right? Legs, of course, is all about squats, back squat, front squat, hack squat. I prefer the machine, not the barbell, actually. It's not really a machine, it's a sled that you load plates on. Leg press is worthwhile. Shoulders, military press or overhead press, side lateral raise, rear lateral raise. A lot of people, they don't do those because those are more isolation exercises. That's an example where it's an isolation exercise, or those are isolation exercises, the side and rear raises that are worth doing because your side and rear delts will not develop fully just by doing military press. And then arms, I think it's important to train arms. I think it's incorrect when people say all you have to do is bench press and deadlift to grow your arms. And once again, though, barbell curls, dumbbell curls, hammer curls, close grip bench press, seated tricep press, exercises where you can go heavy on them and you're getting off the machines.
Okay, so doing core exercises like bench press, squat, deadlift, military press, power press, those and cleans, those types of workouts is what's going to give you maximum results. So stay away from the machines as much as you can. I do think there are some machines that can benefit and supplement your core workouts, but don't let the machines be your main workout. Okay, so let's now jump into the knowledge round, Mike. Are you ready?
Sure. Yeah. I don't even know what to expect.
For you, the listeners of the Knowledge for Men podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their awesome service. And you know what? Something I've noticed after interviewing hundreds of successful people is that they all read a ton of books. If you want to be successful, you've got to educate yourself. I don't always have time to sit down and read a book, so I personally recommend listening to audiobooks in your car, in the gym, or on the go. You can pick up for free any one of my favorite best-selling books like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, Awaken the Giant Within by Anthony Robbins, Mastery by Robert Greene, Choose Yourself by James Altucher, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, or any other audiobook you want. Audible has over 100,000 titles to choose from. To download your free audiobook today, go to kfmbook.com. Again, that's kfmbook.com for your free audiobook today. Start learning, growing, and becoming the man you want to become now. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. All right, first question, Mike. How would you explain bodybuilding to a newcomer?
So I think for somebody coming into it new, don't just think of building muscle. It's just, I want to build muscle. Okay, that's great. Yes, you need to build muscle. But think of it as building a physique. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is like proportions. There's a certain type of look. I wrote an article on like the ideal male physique, right? And you can actually boil it down to exact measurements to have, a good V taper, to have where your chest is in the right proportion to your body, where your shoulders in the right proportion, your arms in the right proportions, to kind of have that, say, Greek god look or whatever. I mean, it's kind of silly. I kind of hate that as a marketing pitch, but think of it as building a physique, because bodybuilding proper, like bodybuilding, the world that what you see in the magazines and stuff, those guys are on so many drugs, it would kill a horse. So don't, bodybuilding is its own thing. And I think the average guy is more interested in building a physique.
Okay, and Mike, what was holding you back from building the physique that you wanted when you first started?
Not knowing how to eat was a part of it. But, at that time I was actually just eating a lot of food, so I wasn't doing it horribly. So the main thing was just not knowing. Like I was saying, doing all the wrong exercises, spending way too long in the gym, training body parts too frequently. I would try to do chest and back twice a week, long workouts twice a week. So just not knowing my way around the gym and not knowing what to do with my exercises was the biggest thing that held me back over the years.
Okay, and Mike, what's the best advice that you've ever received from a mentor? And this doesn't necessarily have to be in health and fitness, just it could be life, it could be business.
Yeah, that's interesting because, I actually haven't even had that many mentors. But, I guess the biggest thing for me is, yes, okay, find something that you're passionate about. But once again, to get passionate about something, passion, in my opinion, kind of begins as a curiosity, as it's just something you might be interested in. That's something you could get passionate about. Like my interest, I'm passionate about writing. But initially, my interest in writing was simply like, I like to read. So I was like, I like to read. I probably could write stuff. And that was really that was the thought. Like I could probably learn to write. It wasn't like at 3 years old, I'm sitting at a typewriter forming my first poems or something. And that's how it started. So run with whatever kind of interests you have. And once you have something that you go, this is cool, I could see myself doing this, then it's time to just pour in the work, just pour in the effort. And my kind of just stable approach to how I approach anything is, I can have some good ideas, I can be smart about it, but I'm gonna outwork anything that can get in my way. And I know I can do that. And I don't know what can happen, things can happen, random problems can occur, stops and things that get in the way. But I know that if I'm willing to just push and push and push, then I can overcome them. So I've just kind of made that my thing. And wherever I pick that up, I experienced it a little bit with my dad. He's a successful businessman, so I got to maybe see a little bit of that of when he was building a couple companies of his, long hours. Similar, where he didn't have friends over hanging out. He didn't go out and do things. He worked, and that's what he did. And he's made a lot of money, and now he does other things. Probably indirectly picked that up a little bit from my dad.
I like that. And Mike, what are your 3 most influential books and why?
For me, I guess Getting Things Done was a great book for me. Very practical, but I still apply a lot of those methods today because I'm a big believer in schedule, in routine, in habit. Friends of mine joke that I'm like a cyborg. Where I'm going to be at certain times, what I'm going to be doing. And it's true in terms of what types of activity. If I take time off on Saturday, I'm going to be doing random things. I don't literally do the same thing every day. But when it comes to work, you can always find me in the office at these times. And at night, you can find me at home on the computer on these times. And I just don't mess with it. And I'm also a big believer in I don't sit in my email. I do what I'm doing while I'm doing it. A lot of things that are in that book they're simple, but they're powerful. There are books like Talent is Overrated, Outliers, which I actually didn't like the message of Outliers. I thought it was a little bit too much. Honestly, I thought it was a little bit too much it's all luck kind of thing, which was more of Gladwell's focus on it. But both of those books really resonated with me in that I find the message of dedicated practice, right? We have that 10,000 hour rule. Right? Everyone's probably heard of that. That it's empowering and it's motivating if you're willing to just accept it for what it is and not think that and not look for the easy way through something. If you're willing to have some grit and really push yourself, then I find that that's something we can control. There are a lot of things in the world with our careers or whatever that we can't control, and we would go crazy trying to control them. But what we can control is getting really, really good at something. And that, I wrote an article on this. There's a quote from Steve Martin, the comedian, right, where his approach for comedy was to just get so good, and this was his advice on you want to succeed at something, get so good that people can't ignore you. And I think that's a great just concept. Get not just okay at something. There are a million people out there that are okay at things. No, get really, really good at something and then get out there. So with the internet, it's so easy now to get things out there. And if you are really good at something, you will get noticed. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. You could be really good at an instrument or singing or whatever, and you put a video on YouTube and now you're Justin Bieber. I mean, that's his story, right? Just get really, really good at something. A third book, I guess I could go with Meditations from Aurelius. It's kind of, okay, philosophical or whatever, but there's just a lot in there that really resonates with me in kind of an overall worldview. And also in just viewing, I wouldn't say that I'm a stoic, but I try to divorce emotion to some degree with certain types of things where, like, for instance, going back to in the beginning, right, when I was doing a lot of work and not really knowing, is this going to even pay off or is this going to be a waste of time? I kind of view those types of things as irrelevant emotions. It doesn't really matter how I felt. I decided when I looked at it and I said, this is an opportunity. I want to see how this goes. It made sense analytically. So I went and just did it. And then even, coming to work and putting in the hours every day. And, I work on the weekends as well. Once again, I do that. I don't care how I feel. I show up, I sit down, and I do the work. And sometimes I'm into it. Sometimes I'm not so into it. But even on those days when I'm not into it, I get into things. So, there are a lot of other, great ideas. Yeah, his philosophy resonates with me.
All right. And what's one action one person can take right now that would get them closer towards their dreams?
Just get going, start working at it, and be willing to be bad. Don't be afraid that you're not going to be good in the beginning, because you're not going to be good. If you're new at something, that's just a fact. You have to be willing to suck, right? And you have to put in that practice, and it comes back to that 10,000 hours. And that 10,000 hour rule, people should realize that is looking at the whole thing from a world-class standpoint. To become really world-class at something, that's what they kind of boil it down to, right? But you could get from anything. I think that if a person starts something new, let's say whatever it is they want to do, it could be in terms of business, for instance. I think one of the most important skills you can have is marketing. You have to be a good salesperson, in which applies also to marketing, right? You have to know how to sell stuff. And the better you are at selling stuff, the more money you can make. And you can have the greatest products ever, but if your marketing sucks, you're not going to make very much money. And of course, we see it all over the place where products suck and the marketing is great and they make a lot of money, and that's not ideal either. But if you put in 1,000 to 2,000 hours into something, you're going to get pretty good. Like, you're going to be pretty competent at it. And that's very approachable. When you start looking at that, you start breaking that down and you go, all right, well, if I did something for 3 hours a day, I did it for a year, I could become competent in something. I think that within 1,000 hours, most people could become competent enough at something to make enough money to where they would then be able to start making that their full-time thing. Maybe it's not going to explode in a year or whatever. So yeah, be realistic with the effort and just start going, and be willing to learn to kind of love the process. This is also, this has been a big thing for me, is I don't chase having things. I don't chase the vision in the end. That's not why I get started, or every day where I have to motivate myself to make that $100,000 or get that car or whatever. That stuff, if anybody that's made money or been around money can tell you that having stuff is cool for about a month, and then you're over it. And then, if you have a Porsche and you have that for a month, then you're like, whatever, I don't even care. Then you look to the Lamborghini or whatever, right? Or you look to, and then you have that and you don't really care. It's a trap. So much more fulfilling is learning to just love the process of the doingness of it, getting somewhere. Like, yeah, it's nice to have things. It's nice to achieve that goal. But for me, honestly, when I achieve a goal or finish a project, it's almost a bittersweet kind of moment, because then I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so that's done. So what do I do now? Like, I gotta get going on something else now. And so I've kind of really come to just learn to enjoy what it takes to actually make something happen. And I found that also, like, through my dad, actually, and just through my work, I've been able to meet quite a few people that are very successful. And it's just a very common trait. I see it with all of them. It doesn't matter how much money they have, how big their companies are. They're always involved in projects that for them gives them that same feeling as when they started their company. They have to put in the hard work, and they're not sure if it's going to work. It doesn't matter. It can be at a bigger scale. They might be risking millions of dollars on it, but it still has that, and that's what they enjoy.
All right, Mike. And next question, I have a scenario for you. Imagine you woke up and you're 20 years old again.
Okay.
You have a laptop and $1,000. What would you do?
I'd write books for sure. That's my thing. And also, look at the not just doesn't have to be books, but being able to produce, look at your podcast and being able to produce valuable content these days is such a quote unquote hack for building a business. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you could be selling swimming pools, and if you know how to create valuable content and you know a little bit about internet marketing, nothing complicated, actually, really is stuff you could learn probably in the course of maybe 40 to 50 hours of study. You would have such a leg up on your competition that didn't do that, because you have people, when you think of customers of anything, they have concerns, they have pains, they have desires. There's a reason why they want your product. If you're able to speak to them and what you can say resonates with them, you can win customers much more easily than just throwing an ad up saying best swimming pools ever, save 20% or something like that. So I just kind of like to write. So that's what I would do, and I kind of know how to make that work. But I think that there is applicability. It doesn't matter like whatever kind of business a person be interested in doing. If they get good at producing content, it doesn't have to be writing. It can be podcasting, it can be videos on YouTube, and good at marketing, learn the subject of marketing, and be willing to just offer free help to people. Just get in that mindset that you're willing to answer people's questions, you're willing to help people out without asking for anything in return, and it really pays big dividends.
Giving value versus taking value. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in the internet marketing world, especially with Gary Vaynerchuk and Dr. Simon Sinek. There's a lot of different leaders just coming from this approach of giving value versus taking value.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, on to the next question. Mike, if you had to write your obituary today, what would it say?
So what comes to mind is it's from Robert Greene's book, 33 Strategies of War, which I'm a fan of Greene's work. It's Latin translated to English, and it just says either don't attempt it or carry it through to the end. And that's one of the quotes when I was, for the beginning, I was like, I also really like that one, but that's just something that I'm a big believer in. If you're going to do something, finish it. And that also, I think it really, when you put yourself in that mindset, like when I get into something, I'm thinking if I start this, I'm finishing it. So it also makes me think about what I get into a little bit more. And I don't just like half-heartedly commit to things. And I try to apply that in all areas of life. And
yeah, finish what you start. Go to the end, go all the way. And you'll never know what could have happened if you finished. So anyways, on Robert Greene, he was episode 3 on this show. I was so happy to have him here. And I love that guy. He's like a modern day Yoda. And now back to the knowledge round. Michael, what is your philosophy on life?
I think I've talked a little bit about this, but work is a huge part, at least for me. And when I think of work is like activity with a purpose, not so much having a job or doing a job, like finding something that is a purpose for you. And I think that life itself is inherently purposeless. I think we have to assign it purpose. I don't think that we come into this world with some preordained type of destiny or purpose that we have to find and fulfill that is waiting for us out there. I think that we have to make it ourselves. And I think that being able to create interest in the world is a huge part of that. If I wasn't writing about fitness, or if I wasn't writing at all, I could list probably 15 other things that I would be super interested in doing and learning about that could turn into careers if I put in the time and got good at them. And I just think that's a big part of life is it can be messy and not everything it goes perfect all the time. But if you have a purpose and you're willing to work hard and you're willing to persist, that in the end you can win. And what a lot of people are chasing in terms of success or happiness, I think, unfortunately, when you see what you think is success and happiness, what you don't see is everything that was done to get there. You see the guy with the house, the car, the this, the that, or whatever, and the money and the vacations. And what you don't see is everything he had to do to get there. And also in terms of what makes, say, money doesn't buy happiness, I think there's truth in that. Of course, there's truth in that having money is cool. And life with money is great. Life without money is tougher. But in the end, it does not bring happiness. In my opinion, what brings happiness is making stuff happen. And that comes back to purpose, things that you want to do. And, don't let other people, whatever that is for you, that's what it is for you. It reminds me of I think it was a speech by Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. Actually, I saw a motivational video that was made from it. And he made a good point, though. He's like, you just have to find what makes you happy, and don't take other people's ideas and think that your idea, especially with the internet today, you can make a living doing, there's almost anything. I don't know if there's anything that any activity or interest that you couldn't make a living on with now. Like you could figure out some way to make a living. So whatever it is for you, you got to find what it is and just and run with it. And the happiness comes from achieving goals and overcoming barriers, not from having things. And because I know quite a few people that made money themselves and are now unhappy because they made, I think of one guy, he made so much money. I mean, this guy, he sold a company for $200 million. He did all the traveling. He bought a jet, this, that. I remember years ago, he's out in his yard with the gardeners gardening. And this guy is he's a real businessman, right? So I asked him, his name's Phil, like, what are you doing? You're gardening. Like, don't you want to go do things? And he had gotten to a point where, he told me that it was, ironically, he felt he was happier working 14 hours a day building his business than he was sitting there with, $100+ million with his huge mansion. And he didn't know what to do anymore. So eventually he got back into business, and then he was happy again. So I know cases like that, other cases, and I know kids that have inherited a lot of money that are the most unhappy people you've ever met. So for me, finding happiness in life is much more about doing things that you feel matter, and then making real connections with people that you resonate with, of course, does matter as well. But for me personally, I couldn't just having great friends and having a great family they're great experiences, but for me, my personality, I couldn't just have that. I couldn't sell my businesses and do nothing but spend time with my family and friends. I would get bored. So I don't know. That's me though.
All right. And that's going to conclude the knowledge round. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to share some of that stuff before.
Yeah, not really. No, because it's always fitness stuff. How do I build muscle? How do I do it?
Yeah, I always try and get something new about the guests on the show, just trying to learn something more than what, most people know about them. So I think we did that here with you. And so what's exciting you today? What wakes you up in the morning, Mike?
Well, I'm working on a follow-up book to Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, which is going to be really for advanced weightlifters. Not that advanced weightlifters can't learn things from Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, but there's more to learn. So that's going to be covered in that book, and also an advanced version of the program. And I'll be doing a follow-up book for Thinner, Leaner, Stronger. And then I'll be doing second editions of Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, Thinner, Leaner, Stronger, doing a bunch of updates and, great from reader feedback, 100% from reader feedback, which is just because I stay in touch with everybody and people have great ideas. So I'm working on that. And then I have my line of workout supplements, which is the brand name is Legion, legionsupplements.com. And you have a lot of plans on that. Of course, it's a new business. And so, we're going to be really ramping it up in the new year, and that's fun. And then, like I said, I'm going to be doing some fiction writing, which I'm excited about. And, it's running my website, which is, I don't know if I even said, muscleforlife.com. It's fun, write a lot of different articles. It's also fun for me because I'm always learning new stuff, asking people what do they want to know about and doing research if I don't know or whatever. And so, yeah, that's my world.
All right, Mike, thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, you've given us such a wide variety of knowledge today about health, about diet, fitness, even business advice. And what I love the most is the life advice that you shared with us today. And I hope your audience was able to learn something they may have not have ever heard about you before.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, and there you have it. That's going to wrap up episode 26 with Michael Matthews.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast show. It's been a pleasure having you be a part of a thriving community of men who want to crush it in all aspects of life. I'm on a mission here to inspire millions of guys, and with your help, we're going to make a dent in the universe. Check out knowledgeformen.com for a ton of free content that's designed to help you live a remarkable life. Again, that's knowledgeformen.com. I hope to see you there. And always remember, 2014 is the official year of the crush, where we take action to get the life we've always dreamed of. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and until next time, let's do it.